Welcome guys. It is just 4 o'clock on Wednesday the 13th. Yes, I had to think then. Well, I'm sure everyone has. Yeah. Wednesday the 13th of May. I was just I just had a couple of thoughts as I was thinking about my life and what I was going to share and so on, and I was thinking about this notion of I call it the loosening of the lockdown, and the conversations about who can go to work, what that can look like. Some places like garden centres and so on opening, but still keeping distance and so forth. And then where that took my head to was actually, literally thinking about the lockdown, the idea of the lockdown itself, which might sound really obvious, but after a while you get used to doing what you're doing. I'm not necessarily, because I'm doing lots of stuff I'm engaged in, I'm not necessarily thinking all the time, I'm in lockdown, so to speak. But when I really thought about it like that, I thought to myself, it's been interesting at the moment in terms of where I've chosen to put my energies. That's what I've been really noticing, where I've been choosing to put my energies, where it feels, it connects, it flows, it feels easier, and maybe other things that I do at times where that can feel perhaps a little bit a bit heady, and so forth. So I was thinking about this life, because up until the lockdown I hadn't really, I knew roughly what lives were about, I'd seen a few people do them, but I hadn't really considered doing that many lives myself. And in fact I'd only just started to engage with the lives and a bit of the video sort of stuff on the Courageous coaching pages with Rosie and Natasha. So I was just sort of being introduced to the world, if you like, the social media world in lots of different ways. So what I've really noticed is I've actually, I'm really enjoying the lives themselves. I'm enjoying the process. I feel really, now I know a little bit about, technically what I need to do. I still have blips, but it flows more. I just feel more comfortable, and I feel really comfortable, speaking to the camera. It's lovely to have, a number of people interacting, having conversations with me, following me, putting comments up. It's just fantastic. It's a great way, I feel, for me to engage. So that's been, really real positive, I think, for me, that's come out of it. Also developing, like I'm sure thousands, if not millions of people, the skill of being able to use Zoom. I'm sure it's going to be a common theme and conversation for people to talk about. And I suppose what those two things actually have in common for me, amongst other things, is that I have had to step out my comfort zone a little bit. Both the live and the Zoom. It's you are to a degree as well. It's quite public. Both of those things, even if it's on a one-to-one with Zoom, you're still having to get your head around how to engage, to connect in a different way. And so I think it has taken that little bit of, and I'll call it a bit of courage, a bit of breathe, dig deeper, to sort of find that inner strength to push through, and also particularly to push through when it doesn't always go according to plan. There's been a couple of times with Zoom where I've used what we call the breakout rooms, and a couple of times pressed the wrong button. And I'd sent people to the breakout rooms, and then a couple of minutes later, if you know anything about Zoom, they were all coming back in. Like thinking, why have we come back in only after a couple of minutes? So I think I've had to step out of my comfort zone, certainly with these things. But also it's the lockdown has also made me think about a number of other things actually. It's given me more time and space to reflect in different ways, and one of those has been with things like my signature story. I've shared about my connection with things that I recall and remember growing up, impact of parents, family, and so on. And that also started to make me think about writing a piece to my mum, who's obviously been dead for 21 years now. I've been writing, I call it a journal, but it's just a, daily dear mum and a, sort of my daughter as well, connecting those sort of two pieces together in a way. And so that's been really reflective and really helpful. And then linking to that, I've been reading a lot of the Brené Brown book. I've just finished it, The Dare to Lead. And as well as talk around the values, which is things I've been making reference to in the lives the last couple of sessions, it also began to link to, bigger legacy, purpose, what you want to, leave in this world, but also, what you want to be known for, what you want to be remembered for, what footprints, what impact you want to leave. And so I'm going to read to you, I've read from this book a couple of times, Hi Zed, Spirit at Work cards, and the book in particular on this occasion, amongst many other lovely things, it talks about legacy, and the title is Legacy. So I'm going to read the page that says Legacy, and yeah, sort of see what your reflections and your thoughts are as I'm reading it out loud. So, title is Legacy, and it says, "Let me gather the best in my life and leave it to those who follow. Source of wisdom, raise my consciousness when I'm not conscious. Let me be unconsciously wise. Help me live with integrity so that the legacy I leave is filled with love and grace." And then it goes on to talk about some things to do with legacy, and I love the idea of this. It says, in the Hopi, as in H-O-P-I, in the Hopi tradition, no decision is made until its effects on the next 7 generations have been considered. I was quite blown away by this actually. It's the first time I'd ever heard of this. In this way, the Hopi people do their best to ensure that their children and grandchildren will inherit a more loving and sustainable planet. I mean, what an amazing thing to think about, every decision that you consider making, you consider its possible effects on the next 7 generations before you even do anything about it. I just thought that was wonderful. And then it goes on to say, as leaders and followers, which are roles we all play interchangeably throughout each day of our lives, we share an inheritance, which is to serve and inspire each other. In turn, we pass on this inheritance in the form of a legacy. We need to ask difficult questions in order to test the mettle of our commitment to creating a legacy. So, are we pursuing noble values? Does our work serve others at least as much, if not more, than it serves ourselves? Are we treading lightly on the planet? And are we being kind to the environment in the work that we do? Does our work ennoble the spirit? Are we doing all we can to clarify the relationship between spirituality and our work and our whole life? Is our work meaningful, just and loving? Are we leaving a noble legacy? There's a number of questions there. And then it goes on to say, all our material possessions are destined to decompose. Our factories, assembly lines, technologies and offices will not endure, not even beyond a human lifetime. The question we must ask ourselves is, after our material entities have gone, will the contributions of our soul remain? Our lives and our work are empty of meaning until we define the legacy we wish to create and then set our intentionality towards its attainment. We each have the opportunity to be great in our time, so that we will leave behind a noble legacy, whether we function in grand or modest arenas. Organisations become great, families become great, homes become great because of exceptional individuals whose everyday practice is one of service and of honouring others, of mentoring, of sacred listening and speaking, of brilliance and inspiration. Their behaviour is inspiring and extraordinary and becomes the stuff upon which their legacy is built. And then the last part of it goes on to say, in the rush of daily life, we must open ourselves to self-renewal, which enables our personal evolution to commence. It's interesting because I think in some ways, although these have been very and are still very challenging times, I think for a number of people it's really got them to seriously, sit and reflect upon what it really means for them to actually consider what they want, what they need, the quietening of the mind, the slowing down a little bit more, the asking some inner serious questions about, it is or was how people are living their lives. Is that the way they want? Is that what they want? Do they want to continue in that way? Are there any changes that need to be made? And then it goes on to say, then we can ask some of the most important questions. Why am I here? What is my destiny? What is the cause that I stand for and feel passionate about? What is my calling? How can I make the planet safer, more loving and more sustainable? How do I contribute and serve? How can I teach the children? How can I gather the resources I need? How can I thrive? And then, what will my legacy be? And there's always a question that is at the end of, on a separate page, at the end of every piece that in this book that I read. And the question here says, how will I create an inspiring legacy? So if you were to be asking that for yourself, you'd be saying to yourself, how will I create an inspiring legacy? Or if I'm saying that to you now to reflect on it, then I'd say, what will you be able to do to create an inspiring legacy? Now, that piece also got me thinking about some of the things that I've thought about and I've shared and connected to some extent. And one of the things I said earlier was I'd been connecting with my signature story, with impact on family growing up. I remember my mum on a number of occasions, I said that previously, saying when she felt, I think, pushing a bit of a corner or stuck, or didn't quite know how to sort of cope with something or what to say, or she might not have had answers anyway, she'd often say that phrase that I just remember sticking as a bit of a loop in my mind, which was, I don't want to talk about it. I remember that, I don't want to talk about it. And I think that being the eldest as well, and being taught to look after others, be responsible and so on, I recognised that I think for lots of reasons, had to shut down some of my feelings, my emotions. I think I said previously, I am, and always have been, I think, quite a sensitive person. And I used to see that as a negative, actually, I think, when I was younger, and almost get annoyed with myself for feeling that or being that way. As I got older, I've recognised actually, that's a real strength, and I really embrace and accept that part of myself. But what I found with that was that there have been many times where when I've felt something, challenging or difficult, and I've wanted to voice that, it's felt, really seriously quite painful, just to have it here in your chest and then your throat. And often what I would do is when I felt that was quite challenging, difficult and painful to be able to feel and express, I would tend to, and I literally physically would do this quite a lot, I'd swallow, literally, do that, and I'd keep doing it, I'd swallow and swallow, and what you're doing, as I'm sure you're aware, you're swallowing those painful feelings, and over time, and certainly over I think the last couple of years, I've become much more kinder about that. I've been more accepting and easier on myself about being able to show. And when I say the emotions and how those difficult feelings can feel, and an element of pain, I also think that that's about definitely showing vulnerability, which I know I've mentioned on other occasions for various reasons. I think I'd really try to cover that up and present and put on this real picture and persona of strength for lots of reasons. And I always felt that to show you vulnerability, there was something about that I found, hi Katie, there was something about that I found quite challenging and quite difficult. Now, there was two massive occasions where I remember speaking challenging thoughts and feelings at one of the coaching trainings I went on a number of years ago, and noticing that when I did show a level of emotion and feeling, and particularly when it was still quite difficult but I pushed through, the impact that it had on other people around me was huge. It was quite big, and people would come up to me and they'd sort of share how they found it really brave and courageous. They connected with me on so many different levels. They found it very freeing. It gave them permission to connect to things that they may find quite difficult, and rather than it being something that, if you like, closed conversations down, what I found is actually it really was so rich. It opened up a lot more than it closed down. The same when I went to a leadership training, and this was last summer. Did a lot of work around sort of digging deep and trying to sort of step into your own inner power and being courageous and so on. And we worked on what I call this, the only way to describe it without going into detail is it was like your inner diamond, the piece that really deep in you that really resonates, and you had to create a statement for that based on some of the work we'd already explored and done, and this connects to some of the other things I've just been sharing. And so the statement I created is, and I've got it here, it says, my strength is in my vulnerability, and I don't need to protect myself to show this. Now, if I was to make that a bit more present, I'm saying my strength is in my vulnerability, and I will not protect myself to show this. And I'm saying it now, and it actually, do you know what? It feels absolutely fine to speak this out loud and say it. When I was trying to speak this at the time, particularly around the vulnerability and that protecting piece, it was like, literally, I found it really hard for it to come out of my mouth. I felt quite emotional about it. And the leaders, who were fantastic, obviously, I say I hated at the time, didn't really hate them, but they were like, get me to say the same statement a number of times. It's like, couldn't get any worse. Not once, not twice, about 3 times. But it really enabled me to push through, dig deep, and find some courage to be able to speak what was important and truthful for me. And the other thing that struck me, and I made some reflections here about this at the time, it's like, what enabled me to be able to feel that bit more brave and courageous to share and say, about what was important. And I've put here, non-judgmental environment, trust, preparation. What I mean by that was, we've done a number of activities to really prepare the ground to enable you to get to a point where you feel you've built yourself up and you can do that. And so when I've been reading a lot of work around in Brené Brown's book, for us on a daily basis, on an individual basis, putting aside, doing a 1, 2, 3 day week course, there are things we need to do for ourselves to put ourselves in good places, to align ourselves. I've been talking about finding what our own personal values are, to be mindful of what our actions are we need to continue to really live by to serve us well, to be putting ourselves in a more present and mindful state, so that we can make better decisions for ourselves. There's lots of things we can be doing for ourselves to put ourselves in a better place. And I put here as well, people wanting the best for me, believing in me in terms of what I have to offer, encouraging, challenging, championing. Interestingly, I've put here, not allowing me to step back and play small. So sometimes it is about, if you're trying to not only do that for yourself, if you're trying to enable somebody else and enable them to be the better version of themselves and to be, you know, really digging into that deeper place, then, you know, it's giving them the encouragement and the championing and the, come on, yeah, you know, you can do it, you can be more than, and really enabling that person to not step back from that, not to allow the person to go, oh no, forget it, doesn't matter, you know, because actually, talking about legacy, the person's life does matter. The impact they have, what they choose to do with it does matter. And I put here as well, other conditions around being able to, you know, be more courageous were to be really seen, not just, you know, and I know you know, to be really seen, to feel like somebody's really, you know, looking into the soul, you know, the windows, you know, say the eyes are the windows of the soul, you know, to really feel that somebody's boring into your eyes, into your soul, and knowing that you're being seen and that you feel also safe as well. Now, I reflected after that on some other thoughts, and this is like really recent now, and I've put here, what else now is courage meaning for me? And if talking about linking to legacy and to values and what I'm giving more time to. And I've got here, courage is trying to speak my truth, not knowing how it will be received. So that's one piece for me. And then I've also put, or courage is also knowing from experience that when I speak my truth, it may not be received well. It might not be received in the way I even would intend it, but saying it anyway. And then I've put here, courage is speaking my truth from the heart, knowing it may feel painful. It's like, even if something feels difficult or challenging or painful, what I've, you know, really begun to understand and accept and be okay with is that it's okay to feel it, you know, it will dissipate, it will lessen, you'll be able to push through it, but it won't stay there, but it will become a fester or a rock or something hard and solid and get in the way if you don't actually allow yourself to speak it. And I've put here as well, courage is also now for me revealing parts of my vulnerable self, knowing I may get hurt, I may feel exposed, but trusting it's for a higher purpose. And therefore speaking my truth creates more courage. And then I've put here, courage comes from a commitment to something bigger. And then that took me to my last piece here, my reflection. And so I've put here, courage is being truthful with myself first, owning and acknowledging what's going on in me, and then showing up in all its ways. And I've put the good, the bad and the ugly, accepting all the aspects of myself. And courage is allowing all of me to show up and speak my truth. And then the last piece I've put here, and I've written here, it's in service of wanting more authentic intimacy and more fulfilling relationships for me and others. And so that's my, you know, that's the fundamental underlying piece I've got to really, which is for me to be more courageous in speaking my truth. And that's what I see. You know, people will all see courage in different ways. We all have our own version, which is really important for us to all have our own version of what courage means to us. You know, it's not some one perfectly defined thing. It shouldn't be at all. But for me, speaking my truth in that sense of being courageous is in service of wanting more authentic intimacy and more fulfilling relationships for me and others. So that's my my sort of, you know, reflective piece around the legacy and being more courageous and trying to dig deeper for myself and exploring more about what that means for me. What I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to share two of my poems I've created. For those of you who've been alive before, at some point I normally then share some of my poetry. So the first one I'm going to share, it's called Going, Going, Gone. So going, going, gone. Check in, check out. What does it mean to check in? What does it mean to check out? What are you checking in with? Who are you checking in with? What have you brought with you? If you don't have anything, are you still let in? What does it mean to not have anything? Everybody has something, don't they? A look, a thought, a word, an action, an expectation, a breath, a smell, a part to play. Are you playing your part well? What part do you play? Whose play is it? Yours, others, or both? Does your part serve a purpose? What is it to have a purpose? What's your purpose? What do you do on purpose? What do you do with purpose? What is the purpose? What's the point? Do you have a point? Do you have a point to prove? To prove what? To who? Yourself? Others? People who are long gone? Long gone? Long gone where? You're a long time going. Apart from when you've gone already. Gone. Where did you go to? So that's going, going, gone. My second poem, I'm just going to take a sip of drink. My second poem is called Being. To be or not to be. To be with. To be. What does that mean? To reach out. To reach in. To connect on a deep level. Having a sense of knowing. To be got. To really get. To see and be seen. To feel naked in front of someone. To physically squirm inside. Feeling the uncomfortableness. Wanting them to know. Knowing maybe they know. And being scared of the knowing. And recoiling in the moment. A moment lost. Never to return. To return to the smile, the nod, the glance, the fidgeting. To be or not to be. Do you really want it? Be careful what you wish for. That was my second poem. So, as always, for those of you who have been on a live with me before, or you're watching this at some point later on, you may be aware that I have talk about a signature story or tune. I generally share and sing, try and sing a song. And as some of you might be aware, these are way, diverse as anything. You never quite know what you're getting in terms of, I think, the songs with me. Last time it was Could It Be Magic? Take That. Today it's something different. So I'm going to just begin to play in a second, guys. So just bear with me a minute. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads. Hope you're joining in, swaying with me. Memories gathered round her, miner's lady, stranger to blue water. Dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eye. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads. Hear a voice in the morning as she calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday. Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country roads, take me home. Country roads. Yeah. So guys, thank you for joining me on my live, and thank you for those who may not be watching right now but may watch at some other point. It's, as always, a real privilege, real pleasure that people take their time out to come and come and engage with me, come and listen to my reflections, my sharing. As always, I really hope that it offers something, you know, amidst all the things that I am sharing. So it could be that I offer a connection for somebody, it could be for somebody else. It's a food for thought. It could be, it makes you think about something that you know are sort of doing or want to apply in your own life. And for others, it might be a bit of amusement when you hear me sharing my song. So hopefully, with a bit of poetry, there is something for everybody. So thank you for joining me, guys. Lots of love, lots of hugs, and or virtual hugs. And yeah, have a good rest of the sort of week. And if you are around, I will do my next live Sunday at 6 o'clock. So hopefully get to see a few of you then as well. So thank you. Keep engaging. Keep sending me lots of messages, lots of good thoughts and stuff. So hi Mandy. So yeah, thank you guys. And I shall see you later. And if you've just missed it, then go and watch it now. Thank you guys.